Everything I am going to talk to you about today will help you get what you want in business and in life.
Father and daughter team, off to the car dealer. First thing we do is what? The test drive.
Always do the test drive, because one tactic in a negotiation is you want to cause the other side to devote time to you.
The more motivated they are to be aggressive in their pricing and other terms and conditions.
Fills out the purchase order, I sign it, I wait for him to sign it, and he says, I have to take it to my sales manager.
Only he can approve it. Yeah, right? You know where this is going. He disappears for a half hour. My sales manager said he's going to fire me if I keep giving prices like this. It's too low, you're too good a negotiator. At this point, I realize that I have made a fundamental mistake. I had a lot of authority in the room, and I was talking to a messenger. Here's how we're going to do this. I'm going to the car. I'm going to read my newspaper. You talk to my daughter. She'll relay your messages to me. You could relay them to your sales manager, and we can do this to the end of time. My daughter at this point looks at me and says, Dad, have you lost your mind? I'm 12, and I'm going to tell Mommy when we get home. After a couple of rounds with my daughter, guess what happened? He appeared from the heavens. With that, we were able to cut a deal. You must always negotiate process before you negotiate the deal. Understand what they're bringing to the table, and you bring the same or less.
And if you're a great negotiator, you will always be perceived as having made more concessions than the other side, so that they can perceive that they've won the negotiation.
It was an outstanding presentation on negotiations. I would recommend Mark as a presenter or as even a contract negotiator. I think Mark would be a great asset and a resource to draw on.
Information is power. I lubricate the conversation as necessary with information to keep it going, so you don't feel like it's a monologue. You provide information to the other side as necessary, but you never simply give it away.
We are going to bid on my $25. The winner pays me the bid, gets my money. The person who comes in second place pays me the money, the amount of the bid, and gets nothing. Who's going to go 14? 16. Who's going to go 18? 20. Who's 22? 24. Who's going 26? Be assured that it's going to a a non-profit organization. That was a lesson in irrational escalation. When you reach an impasse, the most important question you need to ask is, why? I always want to put out the first version of the document because business folks generally discuss a few high-level details, and 100 different points for the first time they're presented is in the legal agreement, the contract. And therefore, I want to, when I can, present my draft. He who drafts sets the agenda.
One of the things that I heard loud and clear from Mark is that concept of the team. So I'll have somebody lead the negotiations, but make sure you have full control of the team, the thoughts of the team, and to control the team throughout the negotiation itself.
That's the second most important skill for every negotiator. Empathy. You can never be a great negotiator if you can't feel the other side's pain. Even if the other side's position is insane, it's their insanity. And you have to empathize with their insanity if you're ever going to be good at this. Remember the scene where the Godfather is negotiating the sale of narcotics with the Tattaglias? You know, my politicians, my judges, they don't mind the prostitution so much. You know, that's not so, they don't mind the gambling at all.
But this heroin business, it's a really dirty business.
The Godfather looks at his son and says, don't you ever, 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 ever do that to me again. When we are in public, There is one voice of this family and one voice only, mine.
You disagree with me, you disagree with me.
In private. Later in the movie, we learn the reason they were trying to assassinate the Godfather is they learned that if the Godfather was dead, Sonny would be in charge of the family and they would be in the heroin business together. Now, that's a unique way to form a partnership. All kidding aside, act like a team.
Trust me. That's another one of my favorites. We've all heard that one. Never say I don't trust you, but what I do say are things like, you know, I do trust you, but what happens if you leave the company and get another job? And what if my team's changed too over the years? We can only live with the four corners of the document. So while I trust you, I need it in writing.
I mean, a limitation of liability on a bring down the city contract, if this technology fails, that has a limitation of liability of 3 months of fees is meaningless. And if your constituents' PII, personal identifiable information, ends up on the internet and you get a refund of 3 months fees as your limitation of liability, that's not okay. So while I suggest that you need to deal with their insanity, it's not to the ultimate detriment of yourself.
1912, Teddy Roosevelt was running for president. Teddy's campaign printed 3 million copies of some campaign literature. On the campaign literature were pictures of Teddy Roosevelt. Someone looks at the picture on the literature, says, wow, there's a copyright notice there. Did anyone ever contact the photographer? Copyright law in 1912 was that if the photographer sued the campaign, he would have been entitled to $3 million, $60 million in today's dollars. Never say you're my only option. Really? I've walked into meetings, that's the first thing out of my client's mouth. You are the best vendor out there. You don't say these things. I just don't get it. Your price is fantastic. Oh, here's my favorite. I come in with 100 points to discuss, red lines all over the place. We sit down to discuss the red lines and my client comes out with, your first draft was the best one I've ever seen in my career.
Don't bring more negotiating power into the room than the other side has. Be a good listener. Ask open-ended questions. Be quiet. You want to be at rough justice. You'll know it when you see it. It takes empathy, it takes listening, fairness. Prior planning prevents poor performance. Use contingency contracts to act as a lie detector. You want compromising behavior, speak in terms of happiness and good things. Only one spokesperson for your team. Act like a team. Thank you.